Hello and welcome back to the Spotlight Games Podcast, episode 101. This week we have some catching up to do with what we've been playing over the last several weeks while we were unveiling the top 100 video games of all time, and we're going to be discussing the official nominations for the Game Awards happening December 7th. I'm your host, Patrick. Joining me, as always, my sweet dumpster boy, Cayman. How are you? How does it feel to be past the top 100?
Oh, brother.
Oh, brother.
101. I love the idea of just always staying at 101. Going forward, every episode is just 101 part. And then we get there, then we'll just do, once we get it, then we'll just do episode 200. And then you have to do 202. You can't, it's just the way numbers work, you know?
I get it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I like it. I like this idea. It's something that I think we can consider, if nothing else.
Yeah, I think we should.
If you found us during the top 100, welcome. This is what a normal show here at Spotlight Games looks like. We're going to be talking about what we've been playing, and then we're going to get into the news, have a topic of the show. We might even be joined by a special guest if you sit and wait around to see. But I do want to mention, if you didn't listen to the top 100, if you've been living under a rock for the last 5 episodes, just finished a series unveiling the top 100 video games of all time as decided by you, the audience. We unveiled 20 games per episode, all the way down to episode 100, unveiling the top 20. Oh, what a great time. If you haven't listened, go back and give it a listen. But I wanted to bring it up to right a wrong, Cayman. What if I told you that the entire list completely falsified? No, that's not what I'm here to say.
Oh, okay.
What I'm here to say, I meant to mention last week and I forgot. And this can also be an easy way to give a little birthday shout out. Friend of the show, one of our sweet listeners, Katie Bergmark. Her husband on the show last week, Elliot Folds. What I didn't mention, Cayman, was that the top 100 was actually, in a roundabout way, their idea, and I didn't give them that credit. So the top 100 as a whole was my idea. I wanted to do this, and I went to them and I said, guys, I want to do a top 100 episode for the podcast. And here's my idea, a little behind the curtain, a little how the sausage was made. My original idea came in was you, me, and our guest each week pick 20 games to add to the top 100. And I was like, what do you think about this? Thoughts, feedback, notes. And they were like, you need to make your audience choose it. And I was like, that's the better idea. So it was their idea to have the audience choose, which I think ultimately made for a fantastic 5 episodes of the Spotlight Games podcast.
I concur.
So happy birthday, Katie. Thanks for the great idea. Thanks for listening. You're great. I hope as you're listening to this, you've won the lottery. I hope all of your dreams have come true. And I hope that you're having a great day. Cayman, how are you doing, though? I want to sit back and ask you how you're doing.
I think that's a perfect segue, Patrick.
Is it a perfect segue?
I think it's a perfect segue, Patrick.
Into?
How am I doing? I have hit the button.
Oh?
Yes. So let me tell you a little story, Patrick.
Tell me.
As you know, as our audience probably knows at this point in time, I think Yakuza Like a Dragon is one of the best games ever made. I think it is a magical moment. And I felt like the year it came out, it did not get nearly enough love. I think it averaged on Metacritic, maybe like a 75 on Metacritic. I thought that was wild. I could see why it wouldn't get, Game of the Year nominee or whatever. But I was like, look, this game has something special to it.
Sure.
It's something special. And I think I think you're looking at it from the perspective of context of what Yakuza is a franchise and what they did with Like a Dragon and all of that was like just such an incredible thing and like reinventing the wheel, to me at least.
Sure.
I had that moment again.
Did you?
With a different game.
Oh, so we're going into what we've been playing, Cayman.
That said, perfect segue. You want to know how I'm doing? What I played and platinumed was RoboCop Rogue City.
Tell me all about it. I've been waiting with bated breath to hear about your experience with RoboCop.
So here's the thing. It has to be known. The team behind this team called Teon, and Patrick, you can probably dig up a list right now. Teon is best known for making Terminator Resistance, I think, a few years ago, which came out to like 55 to 60 on Metacritic. All of the other games, which are like 150, were all like DS shovelware bullshit.
Okay.
And so it's a super tiny team. This is a double A studio. What they do is they work fast, and then basically you get these games, and they're not great. And then they released RoboCop Rogue City. And something about this game, and I think it's really important to point out, is like, has no right whatsoever to be nearly as good as it is.
Tell me about it.
It is an FPS set in the world of RoboCop, and you play the titular RoboCop.
Okay.
And you just follow. It picks up immediately after RoboCop 2. And then you just play through. And it's like a RoboCop movie. That's all it is. You're shooting up punks, blowing up punks. There's a very gory game, but that was RoboCop. It was like over the top. It's full of like really funny, like capitalist or bad jokes, which is awesome. I mean, this is a RoboCop game, and it's the spirit of RoboCop. The thing is, what I didn't realize going into it was they had side quests, a full RPG skill tree. You also have like some of the most insane, like hardy shit in a game where like you're getting psych evaluations because you have a morality system, and they wanted like the shittier you are, the more machine you are, and the more human. And then the question is like, is RoboCop human or is he a machine? And it's heartfelt. There's moments that like shook me. There's moments in this game that I literally was like, this is photorealistic. Now, the facial expressions outside of the main characters like Lewis or the sergeant or the captain or Pete Weller's RoboCop, they're dodgy. They're stodgy. They look shit. The audio doesn't always sync up, and every once in a while there's texture glitches, a lot of texture pop-ins. The game's not perfect.
Sure.
But this game was also made with a studio that's a 10th the size of Insomniac.
Oh, wow. Small team.
Tiny team. It was also made, now keep in mind, Starfield was 10 years in the making? This game was made in like 3. What I think happened with this game, and the game is full of heart. It feels great to be RoboCop. It plays great. The story's great. The morality system is awesome. The music's amazing. It's such a fun game. And then you look at it and you go, wait, hold on. A fun game, a game that can be this enjoyable, can be made on a tiny budget with a tiny team, and it doesn't have to take 10 years of bloat to get it out. And I dawned on me, Patrick, and I said, this could save the video game industry. An industry right now that is mired with layoffs.
Yeah. It feels like, I mean, there would have been more layoff stories today if we weren't talking about the game.
And so it is just constant layoffs. And one of the big excuses is it takes way too long to make a game, and the budgets are outrageously big. And you have to employ 300 people, 500 people, 600 people to make a game. Then you throw in things like, and we're doing crunch and all this shit. It's bad, right? So imagine though, making smaller games that take 12 to 15 hours to complete, that have a semi-open world with really good, running on Unreal Engine 5. And it's cool. Like, can you imagine though, like if we started to shift an industry where instead of having, 500 employees working on a game, we have tiny teams that are working on things and they're taking their time. And instead of these massive budgeting, massive things. And I just think RoboCop is one of those games where, like, I think it's a poster child for like how the games industry could potentially look in the next 10 years. Smaller teams making quality titles.
Do you think, here's a question. So I haven't played this game yet, but I definitely want to play it now that, hearing you talk about it. Do you think these feelings that you have about this game are more subjective or objective? And because, obviously everyone's opinion is their own, but like, do you think in terms of like the polish and that kind of like, do you think this is a game that would speak to a lot of people, or do you think that this is something that you have to have the right taste for? Because I mean, we have a Safe Trash Cinema podcast. Like, we love movies like RoboCop at Safe Trash Cinema. Do you think that like your casual gamer is going to like RoboCop, or do you think this is more of a niche
I think
experience and you take the IP out of it, and it's more so like the structure you're speaking to.
well, I think that's an interesting question because I think on one hand, RoboCop alone speaks to people of our generation to like a weird degree where I don't think you need to know anything about RoboCop. You know who RoboCop is. So I don't think it's again sure it might hit differently if you don't catch some of the Easter eggs or not as enjoy like you don't love the idea of Detroit and looking the way it does
Yeah.
and Pete Weller and his leave bitches but or sorry
Right.
bitches leave like you don't have that like so maybe but I think too I don't think like I think you're also going to pick up an audience that is going to be like an FPS shooter. This is one of the best first person shooters of 2023. Like hands down. There's
Sure.
not a question about it. It is. And you'll see people all over the place saying like if you like shooters, you're going to like this game. I also think this game would be big for people who like Fallout, where you
Okay.
have dialogue options and if you have more skills put in something, you have new options and those options can help you do certain things. I think it would hit a large audience as long as the audience actually wants to. Like they have to look past the title, right? And I think that's the hardest thing right now.
Sure.
You can look past the title. I think you're going to have a great time. And speaking from Platinum guy, the Platinum review is Platinum this game.
Yeah.
There's one trophy that's a little difficult. It's the shooting range. You're going to have to get the high score in the shooting range. It's a little bit of a way to cheese it. And then there's like a speed run trophy where you have to beat a level. But the way it's designed, you can do chapter select. There's no new game plus yet, but they are adding it in the future. But this game, it's like when we'll talk about this with Spider-Man 2, this game's Platinum is built specifically to make you enjoy every little detail about the game.
Cool. That's the best way to do a Platinum.
And that's how you should build a Platinum. So for my review, this is I would say 4 out of 5.
Okay.
And I say 4 out of 5 because I feel like it's definitely worth saying like take out a star for polish alone.
Okay.
Because it is. Crazily enough though, never crashed.
That's good.
15 hours.
Is it like a little chunky though? And it
can be a little like the frame rate can dip a little bit. It didn't really do bad for me. I think I only had one frame rate dip. A lot of times just graphical stuff and audio. Like audio can sound tinny at times. And these are, if you reset, like I think it's just the Pokemon memory issue. Or like sometimes you have to just close it down and restart it again. But it never I never had it where like all of a sudden like I was stuck in anything and like locked in place and had to like reset checkpoints. I didn't have a single bug nearly as bad as Starfield in any of my time playing it.
Well, man.
Yeah. So, but I think so. Platinum review for me, I'm like, you 100% should play this game. It's fucking amazing. The Platinum is great. And I think it's worth like everyone should give it a shot. To me, in my heart, it's a 5 out of 5.
Sure.
But the objective, right? Is for me 4 is 4 out of 5.
Yeah. Okay, that's good to know. I mean, it definitely is a game that like when the trailers were happening, it was like, wow, a RoboCop game.
Oh, it's $60 too.
But it's a RoboCop game that looks good. And then reviews start dropping it or previews start dropping and they're like, guys, this game might actually be really good. And then the reviews start dropping and it's like, oh, this game is good. And then to hear you, I'm like, this definitely, I'm not one to like, this is the hype train has gotten me interested in RoboCop, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Like, this is probably a game that I wouldn't have played otherwise, but I definitely, I want to give it a shot before the end of the year.
I would say
hearing those thoughts.
Yeah. And I will say like, for me, the way I did it was I watched RoboCop 1 and 2, did not watch 3 because this game takes place like 3 doesn't exist. And thank God 3 shouldn't exist. We'll do an STC episode on that one day, but, watch the first 2 films before you play it because there's a moment where you pull out every time you have to leave and go like the police station and go out. You get in your car, your fucking what is it, the Ford Taurus, and you drive up and then you hit the ramp and it shoots sparks out. The thing is, it happens 3 times total in the movies. Every time he leaves the police station, the fact they included it shot for shot. It's like you can see there's a love here that like I think is missing in a lot of games.
Yeah,
that's that little thing of like we were here for you, and I like, yeah.
Well, Cognitive Clips in the chat makes a great point. AA games need more love. Scars Above was a great ride earlier this year. I haven't played Scars Above, but we've talked about this a little bit on the show before, where like there used to be such a an open space for the AA game. The game that, like, in a way feels AAA, but you can tell was made on a budget, probably in less time. And in ways, like, it's obvious that this game was made like that.
Yeah.
But we just, in ways that we've talked about on the show a ton, like the way that the business side of the industry has gone, it's kind of gotten rid of AA's in a big way. Not to say that they don't exist anymore, but like, this is probably one of the biggest. I mean, would you classify RoboCop as a AA game?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So
This
this
is a
was
double A game.
probably the first kind of, not the first. It's the wrong word. The biggest AA game that we've had in a while. It seems.
I would say that probably the only other game that I would say double A that was big like this would probably be a Plague Tale, the first a Plague Tale. I think they definitely cranked up the studio size and like the production value for Plague Tale 2. What was it? Plague Tale something.
Innocence, or maybe the Innocence was the first one.
I think
No, Requiem. Plague Tale Requiem.
Yeah, Innocence was the first. So like Plague Tale Requiem, I think was more AAA, but one could probably argue the opposite and be like, no, it's still AA. But like outside of that, like AA games don't really exist. And I think and I say this with I think the way Marvel is functioning too, with how like their movies are not making money back, or like WB is as well, is like I think the way both industries are moving forward, we need to start maybe falling back on AA games is like a more sustainable way to keep this industry moving forward. I think AA might be a what we start seeing more of, and I hope so.
Could be.
I hope so.
We also got Shrag Daddy 69 in the chat dropping a social. Thank you. For those of you that follow us on Instagram, I asked you for your social security numbers and to drop it in the chat. If you're not a coward, please, I hope that's not your social security number. And then we got John in the chat, Rabbit128. Haven't seen your face in a long time. Welcome back to Spotlight Games, John. He says, Patrick think RoboCop poo poo pee pee. Moving pictures make Patrick want RoboCop. I think that was actually a direct quote, and thank you for sending that in. Cayman, you've also played and platinumed, as well as me having played and platinumed Spider-Man 2 on the PlayStation 5. This is a game that we have talked about very little. We brought it up a little bit during the Top 100 when we talked about the original Spider-Man back in 2018. That was on the PS4. The sequel, which we're going to be talking about later today as well, because it is nominated for multiple game awards, but we've both played it. Cayman, what are your thoughts on Spider-Man 2 from Insomniac?
Look, I think Spider-Man 2 has a perfect platinum. I think Spider-Man 2 also is the best superhero video game we've ever gotten. I would say I enjoyed it as much, if not slightly more, than the first Marvel Spider-Man. And I think this game is it's perfect in a way that I don't understand. It is the perfect length with the perfect amount of content inside of it. But when I was done, I was like, man, I could go for another 10, 15, 20.
I agree. I really when I finished that game and got the platinum, I like a day and a half later, I'm like, man, I want to play more Spider-Man 2, but there's like really nothing else for me to do. Like there's, random crimes around the city that I can go fight. Yeah. But I was like, I really want more Spider-Man 2. And I don't remember if they've said if they're doing DLC like they did for the last one. I really hope they are, because I know they're working on Wolverine, but that's a different team within Insomniac. So I hope that the Spider-Man team is going to give us a little more, because I think I echo just about everything that you say. And the only thing I would add to it, I think, is I think it enhances the original in basically every single way. Like I think I kind of liked the pacing of the first game a little more in terms of its story. When you look at the entire game as a whole, I think the second game has a better pacing than the first game, but I think like there's it's a Venom story. Like I think that's kind of my one criticism of it, is that I think there are ways that they kind of make it their own Venom story, but at the end of the day, like there's only so many ways that you can tell a Venom story. But that being said, like the introduction of the symbiote powers, I think is fucking great. I think the ability to switch between Peter and Miles basically whenever you want, unless you're in the middle of a mission playing as that Spider-Man, I think works seamlessly. And the power of the PlayStation 5, like being able to, when you do switch between them, is insane how good it feels when you're
It's
switching
crazy.
between Peter and Miles. And I personally found myself playing as Miles more than I found myself playing as Peter, because I just love the way that Miles's powers work. But man,
So
they have
weird, man.
really cracked the nut of
Yeah.
Spider-Man. Like they really know how to make a fucking great game. And Cognitive Clips in the chat brings up a good point. They have announced the new game plus is on the way, but they've but not sure about actual DLC though. Me too, and I hope they do it because this game fucking rules. But
Mm,
there is still something missing for me in terms of it being a game of the year contender in a
yeah.
real way. Like I do think that it is in my top 5. It might even end up in my top 3, but it just what it doesn't do, which is like totally like in a different year, Spider-Man 2 absolutely could be game of the year. It's just we're talking about 2023 here. What it doesn't do is take it to a level that you can compare to a Tears of the Kingdom, to a Baldur's Gate 3, to an
Yeah.
Alan Wake 2 came in, but that's a different conversation.
It's interesting you say that. I don't necessarily disagree.
Yeah.
I don't think that doesn't mean that the game is one of the I mean the best to me, the best superhero game ever made.
Yeah.
Um, but there's something there. It's a little it's like and I think it is. I think you might have nailed it on the head that they've cracked the nut of what Spider-Man is, but there might be a limit to what Spider-Man is.
Sure.
And I think that might be the issue here is that I don't know if you can make a game that's within the Spider-Man universe like that is going to be such a game changer than something like Tears of the Kingdom's mechanic of the Ultra Hand or
Yeah.
the just Baldur's Gate 3's just endless options of like story development and characters and like I don't think you
Yeah.
can do that in a game like this and it, it is what it is but I
Yeah, I feel like the only way that they could really get to that level, there's 2 ways. One, release in a year that isn't as stacked as this was, or as
essentially
when the last one released, or if they can work toward and somehow make work a game that is essentially the Avengers. But like, if they introduce, like, there's been rumors that maybe there's going to be some Daredevil introduced
yeah
at some point. If there was a game where you're playing as Spider-Man, Wolverine, and Daredevil, and they make it work. Like I feel like that's kind of one of the only ways because they did say I was listening to a spoiler cast with Brian Intihar, the game director, and he was like, "We look at the original Spider-Man as like our Iron Man, and so we kind of look at this as like Civil War of the MCU. So we're hoping that the next game is our end game, which like of course you're truncating like 25 films into 3 games, but
yeah
like if you can nail it, then I don't know, but I do think that there might be like a limit to a certain degree on what you can do. I think you're onto something there.
yeah and I think so there's a particular mission that I was like this is one of the greatest missions in a video game and it's the Black Cat mission.
Oh man, that mission's so good.
And you're to put it like so if you haven't seen it, and this is the slight spoilers here, if you haven't played it. But the mission essentially is you are getting like having to go through a bunch of portals, and it's very Ratchet and Clank, a Rift in
Very
Time.
Ratchet and Clank, yeah.
And but it feels like what it did in like this one particular level, and only happens once in the game, is like it feels like what they did in Ratchet and Clank, but there was like this is the perfected version, and they just
Yeah.
give you a little nibbling. But like if you can imagine having a game like Doctor Strange where you could just open portals and like you're now into a complete like to build
Yeah.
something and probably need way more than what the PS5 can handle. But
Yeah.
like there needs to be something like that, you
Yeah.
know?
I
And I will say that
yeah, that'd be cool.
I think being able to switch seamlessly to Miles and Peter at a whim, and I think the fast travel system both are absolutely like incredible things, and I think it's great. I love that ability to do those things, but at the same time, like it needs to be like genre defining,
Sure.
and none of that is. Um, yeah, so but look, it's still this is like the closest you
I
get
would
to a
give this a
perfect.
strong 5 out of 5 personally.
Yeah, hands down,
Like
100%.
if you have a PlayStation 5 and you haven't played this game, I don't know why, but go get this
Yeah.
game. It's fucking great. And John in the chat, who's your Spider-Man, Miles or Peter? It's still Peter for me. I just in this game, I personally preferred playing as Miles from a combat standpoint.
Honestly, I enjoyed Miles's story more than Peter's, but I enjoyed
I agree.
Peter's. I enjoyed playing as Peter, especially symbiote suit Peter,
Yeah.
because
I mean, it's still great.
the way that they implement it is just so fucking cool. Because what it should do to you is it should make you change the way that you play. Because when you play as Miles, I'm always going incredibly stealthy. I'm trying to take out as many enemies as humanly possible without
Sure.
being seen. But if I'm playing as Black Suit Pete, I'm not taking down a single person without it being with my fist in their ass. Like I'm coming
Yeah.
to I'm just hitting all the buttons, doing all the crazy ass combos, just doing just batshit crazy stuff
Yeah.
as P, because like the confidence, right, is there. And so I think that's like one of the really cool things about like the dynamic of both of them is that they've designed it where you can play. To me, in the moment, I was enjoying being super badass Spider-Man over the more stealthy Miles. But I
Sure.
love Miles' story, I think,
Yeah.
is
For
one of
me,
the best.
the electric powers of Miles, I think, just feel so good. Not to
They're
say that the
cool.
symbiote doesn't feel good, but I really, I loved um, I loved as Miles electrocuting everybody, sending them up in the air. Like it's like a 51-49 though. Like
Yeah.
I did really love playing as Peter, but Spider-Man 2, go play it. I'm sure we're going to be talking about Spider-Man 2 a lot more in this podcast by the end of the year. I do want to mention one more game before we go into the topic of the show, which is the Game Award nominations, and that is Assassin's Creed Mirage.
How was it?
I played this at the height of COVID when I had COVID
Ooh, yeah,
several
Fever
weeks
Dream
ago.
boy.
Because it's so funny. I was talking to somebody about it over the weekend, and he was like, "Ooh, what did you think of Mirage?" I was like, "Oh, I loved it." He's like, "Interesting. I couldn't finish it." I was like, "I wonder if I forgave it for a lot of things because I was in the middle of a fever dream with a fever of like 105 or whatever." But this is what I'll say about Assassin's Creed Mirage. It's a budget title. It's $50. Perfect price, I think, for this game. It's like a 15-20 hour experience. Feels a lot like the original Assassin's Creed game. Set in Baghdad, you play as Basim, who, if you played Valhalla, is a character that comes up in Valhalla. And I think as a big Assassin's Creed fan, it did a lot for me to forgive a lot of the transgressions that I've personally had with the franchise in a while. The biggest of which, it seemingly making every game 5 times bigger than the previous game. Like to the point where I didn't finish Valhalla because it was so fucking big. And being able to finish this game within a few days felt really good to me. And I think the story left a little to be desired. If there were it was a bit derivative by the end of it, but that kind of more intimate, stealth-driven Assassin's Creed, while still having bits of DNA of the new Assassin's Creed from a combat standpoint. There's just so many new kind of like little innovations within the systems of Assassin's Creed that I'm really excited to see what this looks like for the next one, because I really hope that we get to see more Mirage sized things. I hope this sells well enough that it convinces Ubisoft we need to make more of these. And it's not just because I'm sure the next one that they release is going to be like Valhalla sized.
Sure. Yeah.
But then again, I mean, they're working on like 7 of them right now. But if you haven't played Mirage and you like Assassin's Creed, I think this is a very good return to form that is worth your time. I don't think it's anywhere near Game of the Year consideration, but it's a solid like 3.5, 3 or 3 out of 5, maybe a 4 out of 5 if you really love the franchise like I do. My only other kind of gripe with it, which is a personal thing that a lot of people would disagree with me on, and I think I've said this on the show before, I just love the modern day bullshit in Assassin's Creed. Like
You're fucking insane.
I think it's so good, especially OG, like with Desmond and all that kind of stuff. There's basically none of it in this game. Like it's almost completely removed for the most part. There's still like mystical shit. There's still like parts of it within the DNA of the world, but not like you don't go to the future. You don't hear from people in the future. But so I was a little disappointed by that. But all that to say, the game I had a really good time with, and I think it's worth playing if you're interested in Assassin's Creed. But don't drop your life to go to go play this game.
Oh, I'm gonna drop my life right now on live on Twitch.
Stop it. We've been playing a lot more games, but
yes,
we got other things to talk about, like the Game Awards. Look, back 10 years ago now, I think this is the 10th year, the Game Awards were started by one Jeff Keighley, and on December 7th, they're returning for their 10th year, celebrating the year in gaming. And just this week, just yesterday, in fact, no, just this morning, in fact, his team announced that this year's nominees have been announced. I don't know what I'm saying. I think my fever has come back from COVID, but we're going to discuss them. And Cayman, we are bringing in friend of the show, Jordan, aka Cognitive Clips, to talk about the Game Awards. Welcome to the show, Jordan. You've been in the chat for the last several months as one of my favorite chatters. John, don't take this personally. You're up there too, but wanted to bring you on the show to talk about the Game Awards because there's so much to talk about. Jordan, welcome to the show. How are you, sir?
Doing great, guys. How y'all doing?
Just fine. Jordan, before we jump into it, because you weren't here for the top of the show, why don't you tell the folks at home a little bit about yourself, a little bit about Cognitive Clips before we jump into it?
Yeah, sure. So again, my given name on my birth certificate is Jordan, not Cognitive Clips. But yeah, I've been gaming like my whole life. Just started up trying to do some Twitch content, some YouTube content a few months ago. So that's been a lot of fun trying to do that. And yeah, I've been playing a lot of these releases from this year, including Spider-Man 2, Zelda, a whole bunch of stuff. So it's been a great year for it, and I'm excited to look at these nominees with you guys.
Hell yeah. Well, I mean, we got a lot to go through. We're skipping some of them, but we got a lot to go through. So what do you guys say we jump right in?
Wait,
Do it.
let's skip. Let's skip.
I was like, wait, are you having a stroke? Amen.
The entire list. Just toss it.
Skip it. Skip to the end. Baldur's Gate 3 is winner of the Game Awards.
There you go. Yeah. So as we go through, we're going to be unveiling who has been nominated, and we're also going to give our predictions, which I'm going to keep track of, and we're going to come back to once the awards happen on the 7th. But I'm skipping all the esports stuff. Like, look, this channel isn't really, we don't really care about esports. If that's something you care about, I'm sure you already listened to a podcast that talks about esports. So we're going to be talking about what I think are the big ones, things like best multiplayer game, best ongoing game, adaptations, game of the year, that kind of shit. But before we do jump in, general thoughts. How do we feel about this list? Like, as a whole, do we feel like there are some big snubs? Do we feel like this is generally a good kind of, what's the word I'm looking for? A good representation of this year in gaming? Jordan, what do you think?
Mostly good. I think there are definitely some pretty big snubs. A couple,
and we'll get to individual ones as we go through.
Yeah, there's a couple that I think don't belong where they are, but we'll get to that before I'm roasted and/or kicked out of the studio here. So
not gonna happen. Not gonna happen. Cayman, what about you? What are your general thoughts on the list?
Yeah, I know. I think that the list, for the most part, I really think it sums up like what this year was. I think there's one game on the list that has given me a little bit of a pause. Not because I don't think it deserves to be there, but just context clues will lead you down a path once we get to it. But I think outside of that, no, I mean, look, I think that we will look back on this on 2023 as like the 2003 of gaming. Was it 2003? That was Halo and Half-Life, and
I think so.
Yeah. Either way, dude, like, we're gonna look back on 2023 as like one of the big ones. One of those years that like all of these incredible games drop. I think you could take this list of 6 and you could probably add an additional 4, 5, or 6 more games to it. And like any of those 6 games could win, last year, or maybe not last year, but, you know what I mean? Like there's games on this list that could win every other year, but will get absolutely hammered because it was up against another game.
It's crazy. Like, I think for the most part, like, I do agree. Like, I think it's a good list overall, but like, I get to the end of it and I'm like, man, there is genuinely a world where Tears of the Kingdom doesn't win a single game award, or there's genuinely a world where Spider-Man 2 doesn't win a single game award, or Alan Wake doesn't win a single game award. Like, there are these huge games that I'm going to be shocked if they don't win, but would make sense. The only game that I know is not going to be snubbed at all is Baldur's Gate 3. But
Yeah.
let's jump into it.
It might
So
win at least, I think at least one for Baldur's Gate.
at least one. So first up, best multiplayer game, which interestingly, Baldur's Gate 3 nominated, Diablo 4, Party Animals, Street Fighter 6, and Super Mario Brothers Wonder are the 5 nominated in this category. It's funny, I don't think of Baldur's Gate 3 as a multiplayer game, but then just earlier today or yesterday in our Discord, which you should join, a friend of the show, Jacob Askren, who's been on the show before, was mentioning that he's been playing a multiplayer run of Baldur's Gate 3. So, I mean, there must be a community here. But is there a standout here for either of you guys on what you guys think would win?
I mean, for me personally, it's Baldur's Gate 3, I think, has it in the bag.
You think?
Yeah, and I feel the same way about Baldur's Gate 3 as that I did with Elden Ring, where I think it's one of those games. It's going up against one of those games that should win. You know, I think God of War Ragnarok should win too.
Sure.
But I think Baldur's Gate 3, it's one of those things where I think what it's doing right now, as someone who's put 60 plus hours into it, is something that has never happened before in a video game. Whereas I think that is what's going to take the edge over something like Tears of the Kingdom. Because I think though Tears of the Kingdom's Ultra Hand is one of the coolest mechanics ever in a video game, a lot of that game still is just a reskin Breath of the Wild. And I think that one little bit.
Sure, that's a conversation for a different thing though. We're talking about multiplayer game. Do you think though that Baldur's Gate 3? Do you think Baldur's Gate 3 like? Do you think that has the chance of? Thanks for listening to the podcast that you're on right now. Do you think that Baldur's Gate 3 would win for best multiplayer game?
Yes.
Though? Like,
you
think so?
Yeah, maybe. I don't think it's going to be as big of a hit. I mean, shit, fuck, I don't know. There's a lot of people that are playing it.
Sure. Jordan, what about you? Where's your head at for best multiplayer?
I'm leaning Mario Wonder, man.
Yeah.
I'm having a lot of fun with that. Again, I mentioned to you guys during the pre-show. So I've got a 3-year-old and an almost 5-year-old at home, and my daughter more so, the younger one, likes to just jump on and play with me. She's terrible at it. It's embarrassing how bad she is at video games. Just kick her out. But no, it's a lot of fun to be able to just give her one of the Joy-Cons and let her play around with it. But also, like, even aside from that, though, I remember seeing this from the announcement and really being intrigued by it. Is like if you have the online turned on and you're on the level, then there's like ghosts of other people who are playing at the same time as you are. And so if one of you falls off the level or gets hit too many times or whatever, then like you can like float your ghost over to their little like kind of translucent player, and like they'll revive you, and like you can like send up little emotes and like put up little standees to help people do that as well. And it's a lot of fun to like. There's been a couple of times where I'm running around in a level and like me and one other person just keep like reviving each other because we keep like falling in the lava or whatever else. That's like, it's a really weird, like wordless but still cool little bond you make with like, yeah.
I've not played online yet. I have kept it offline the whole time. So I've not tried that. I need to try that because I do think that Mario Bros. Wonder is another game. Like I don't expect it to win a ton. So I could see this being one of the ones that it ends up taking home for sure. At first I was thinking maybe Party Animals because it has such a big following on Twitch, but I think you're probably right. Jordan, that I think Mario Brothers Wonder has a good shot here, but then again, like I wouldn't be surprised if it ends up just being Baldur's Gate 3.
But do you think that it's going to get any like additional leeway because it's going to be in a situation where it probably isn't going to win anything else, though it's nominated for Game of the Year? It's probably going to win nothing else, and so it's kind of a sympathy vote.
It might. Next up, this one's interesting. So after this, we got Best Ongoing Game. Which I find this one super interesting. What's nominated? So we got Apex, Cyberpunk 2077, Final Fantasy 14, Fortnite, and Genshin Impact. This is one of those categories that seems to be about the same every year, save one or two games. Last year, I remember us talking about how it was a shame that Dead by Daylight wasn't nominated, which it's a shame that it still isn't nominated. But Cyberpunk is so interesting to me. But then you look at the way that it's described in the category. And it's like a game that essentially has had continuous support for its community, which like Cyberpunk has. Like it's basically been redone twice now, but I don't know. Do you guys feel like it makes sense in this category?
No, it absolutely makes no fucking sense.
It's weird.
they
It's
were
weird.
like, "Hey, here's a huge DLC. This is not an ongoing game. Like an ongoing, like, or maybe my understanding of what an ongoing game is. Maybe this is the only way that you can get Cyberpunk in
because
to
it is
awards
nominated
now.
again later, but it's
Oh,
only
it's
nominated,
fair,
I think,
yeah.
for one other award, which is Best RPG. But yeah, I thought this one was super strange because I would assume this goes to either like a Final Fantasy 14 or a Genshin, but the fact that Cyberpunk is here makes me think that Cyberpunk is going to win this award.
Yeah, I'm not gonna
I think
put my vote there. I'm not
Yeah.
gonna do it.
I
I'm
think
not
it
gonna
was
do it.
maybe Blessing. It was either Blessing or Andy yesterday on Kind of Funny Games Daily. We're kind of like describing a little bit and saying how like the I don't really play Cyberpunk, but like the 2.0 update that came out this year apparently like almost completely redid the entire
Yeah.
experience.
Oh no,
Like
yeah,
redid the
really
skill
swap.
trees, redid like everything. So I can kind of see how that could push it into this category, but it's still really
Guess.
weird overall.
Yeah,
where
it's still
like,
strange.
yeah,
I'm gonna go with Fortnite.
Okay.
I think because they were this year, I don't follow anything Fortnite, but I just know a bunch of people are really excited about the fact that like they took away building and put in like a game mode without it, and then like
Yeah.
brought the original map back. I
That's
think
true.
they've done a lot of things this year, and Genshin won last year. I don't know, man. I think this is Fortnite's time to shine again.
I'm
I
going
like it.
Fortnite too, actually.
Okay. All right, I'll see if I can get
It's
a
the only
point
one
on
I've
you
actually
guys.
played any sort of.
Yeah,
I think I've
that
played maybe 3 matches in my entire life of Fortnite, but I've at least played that one
Sure, there you go,
longer
there
than
you go.
any of the other ones. And did you see that you can go into Fortnite and vote for I think your favorite map for the Game Awards?
You know they're
There's
gonna
a-
give it that.
There's a
fucking award
digitized Jeff
now.
Keighley, and it's
Video
uncanny.
games are so dumb.
It is Polar Express uncanny. It's I don't
Yeah.
like it.
Next up, best adaptation. We got Castlevania Nocturne, Gran Turismo, The Last of Us, the Super Mario Brothers movie, and Twisted Metal. Good for Twisted Metal for getting the nomination. Has no fucking
Good.
chance. This
No.
is Last of Us, easily no shot
Yep.
for anything
This
else.
is The Last of Us. The only way this probably won't win is if Pedro Pascal turns out to be not daddy.
And that's not going to happen. I won't allow it.
If
Do
he
you
becomes
guys?
Pedo Pascal,
Oh
he'll be in
no!
trouble. He better
That
not.
will be-
I love him to death. He's fantastic.
too.
He just seems like an awesome person.
Yeah, he does. So, Jordan, do you agree with The Last of Us there?
Yes, as much as I enjoyed the Mario Brothers movie, it's got to be Last of Us.
Me too. And like that's the thing. Like we talked on this show. Like Twisted Metal is a great adaptation for what Twisted Metal is.
That's what I've heard too. I haven't seen it, but I've heard it's really good.
I also agree. Like I think the Super Mario Brothers movie is fantastic, but it's not The Last of Us. There's no way.
Yeah.
Next up, best community support: Baldur's Gate 3, Cyberpunk 2077, Destiny 2, Final Fantasy 14. And No Man's Sky. A bit odd timing for Destiny 2 to be nominated after laying off like most of their community team, which is really unfortunate.
Yeah.
So I don't think that's gonna win.
I think Patrick, this is where you come in with your Cyberpunk pick.
You think this is a cyber? Yeah, that's a good one.
I think this is that one for you.
That's a good point.
Trying to save you the
point.
embarrassment of missing the first point.
Sure. Hey, I appreciate that. I'm going to go Cyberpunk here. Hey, Cayman, are you going Cyberpunk here as well?
I'm going to do that so that if we both fail, we fail together.
Thank you. How about you, Jordan?
Y'all can sync on that ship. I'm going No Man's Sky for this one because I've played that one. So
there you go. A strict only voting for what I've played rule. I like it. Next up, best indie. We got Cocoon, Dave the Diver, Dredge, Sea of Stars, and Viewfinder. I think I have an idea of what you're going to pick, Cayman. I'm assuming you're going Sea of Stars here.
Yeah. I thought this was going to be Game of the Year contender.
Yeah.
It should be.
And honestly,
we will get there, but it should be.
Yeah, a bit pissed off about it because I think and maybe this is selfish of me, or maybe this is like the I don't know, the good person in me, but like I feel like when it comes down to it, a company, dev team behind a game like Sea of Stars, I feel like deserves it more than like a dev team that made a really great game, but also that game was, I don't know, a remake of something.
Sure. Well, we'll get there. Yeah, I'm thinking Sea of Stars here too. Like, I'm really excited to play Cocoon, but I haven't yet. But I've heard nothing but great things about it. Viewfinder, I don't think has the juice. I think it was a cool idea, it just wasn't executed to the way that of Sea of Stars was. And I liked Dredge, and I really like Dave the Diver, but it's just weird that it's in this category. I think.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, that's a a nut.
Yeah, that's a whole other conversation whether or not Dave the Diver should even be nominated for best indie, even though it looks like an indie. But yeah, I think we're all aligned on Sea of Stars here.
The
Next up, we
stars are
got
aligned.
there we go. This was Sea of Stars are aligned. Next up, best debut indie. So this is the best first game made by an indie studio. We got Cocoon again, Dredge again, Pizza Tower, Venba, and Viewfinder. I would assume, based on the reviews and stuff, I would think Cocoon is going to get this, but in my heart, I kind of hope it's Venba. But I'm putting my horse behind Cocoon here.
My heart, Pizza Tower.
Pizza Tower for you, Cayman?
Oh no, I'm just saying in my heart. I don't agree with it. I'm sorry. I feel like I cut off Jordan. I just feel dog shit.
No, you didn't.
No, you didn't. I tried introducing Jordan while you were talking. That's on me. I'm the bad guy here. I'm in timeout.
I did the wrong thing. I'm sorry.
But Jordan, where are your thoughts for best debut indie?
Well, if I'm following my rule, I can't in good conscience vote for any of them. But Cocoon probably looks the most up my alley, if I had to guess. I've heard a lot of good things about Dredge, though, so I wouldn't be surprised if that one takes it. And Donkey had a really funny video about Pizza Tower, so it has that going for it. So, yeah.
I heard a lot of really good things about Pizza Tower. I still haven't played it, though.
I think it's just on PC right now, right?
I think so, yeah.
Well, you can play it on the Steam Deck, you bastard.
True. I'm a dirty little bastard. So what
if
are you?
I had one.
Cayman?
Yeah. As much as I would love to say, like, I really, honestly, like, I think Pizza Tower is really cool, and I think Dredge, like, my wife really loved Dredge, and I loved watching her play Dredge. It's such a cool little game, but like, ultimately, I still think Cocoon ends up winning, just based on reviews alone.
Okay. Next up, we got Content Creator of the Year, which really I'm only bringing this up to say it's absolute dog shit that Spotlight Games was not nominated. So go write Jeff Keighley an email.
Cowards.
They're cowards for not nominating Spotlight Games, to be honest. So that's all. I just wanted to bring it up to yell about that. After that, we got Best Action/Adventure Game. Best Action Adventure Game. We got Alan Wake 2, Spider-Man 2, Resident Evil 4, Star Wars Jedi Survivor, and The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. This is one of the hardest ones for me to choose because
it's a stat category.
It's a stat category, and it's that thing we were talking about a little bit earlier of like, we all, I think, assume Baldur's Gate 3 is going to win Game of the Year. So then it's like, okay, well, this is a category where either Alan Wake, Spider-Man, Resident Evil, Star Wars, or Tears of the Kingdom could actually get a win. But it's like, I don't know which one is going to do it. Cayman, do you have an inkling on who you think might get the win here?
Yeah, this is where the bonkers one for me, man. Part of me wants to say that I could see Spider-Man 2 end up winning, but at the same time, the other half of me is like, there's no way that Tears of the Kingdom isn't gonna win this, because I think it's under the same the same brain, right? Of thinking like, okay, well, if Baldur's Gate 3 is the game of the year, then obviously it's the best whatever that game is, that type of game for that year, right? So I think because the front runners for me right now are going to be Baldur's Gate and Tears of the Kingdom, I think I have to go Tears of the Kingdom here, because if it wins game of the year,
it's going to win this category.
Yeah.
Tears of the Kingdom all the way.
Yeah. It's funny. I think, Alan Wake 2 does fall in this category, but I think it's going to win other stuff, but I don't think it's going to win this. I'm also going with Tears of the Kingdom.
They need like a best horror game. The fact that they don't have a best horror game category, it's just snubs to horror for some reason. I don't get it.
It's strange. I agree.
Yeah.
After this, we got Best RPG, which is Baldur's Gate 3, Final Fantasy 16, Lies of P, Sea of Stars, and the one singular nomination for Starfield. I think this one, as you said just now, Cayman, it's gonna be Starfield. No, it's Baldur's Gate 3. I think this is one of the easiest to choose for the night. And if it doesn't win Best RPG, I don't think it's winning Game of the Year.
Dude, I will lose my absolute fucking mind. I will literally die if that happens. Honestly, it would be the funniest thing ever. It would be more funny than the creepy French kid who walked up on stage last year.
Sure. Jordan, do you think there's a chance that your darling Sea of Stars can win here?
I saw the Google Doc and you put my initial next to it, and that's what I'm voting for. I mean,
hell yeah.
I'm probably going to be wrong. It's probably going to be Baldur's Gate sweeping everything, but man, Sea of Stars is just so special. I can't not go for it.
I put that there and I was like, wait, I hope I'm not influencing him here. I just assumed.
No. I had double checked my own Google Doc.
There you go.
This morning when I should have been, focusing at my job, and I was doing Game Awards noms and sea stars.
Oh yeah.
Who needs that?
After that, we got Best Action Game, which is Armored Core 6, Fires of Rubicon, Dead Island 2, Ghost Runner 2, Hi-Fi Rush, and Remnant 2. I think Armored Core 6 feels like the best contender here for me. I could see Hi-Fi Rush getting it. I think Dead Island 2 doesn't have a chance in hell. I honestly don't know enough about Remnant 2, but Cayman, where's your head at for this one?
I love that Dead Island 2 is even on this list. Let's just who would have fucking thought? Who would have thought? You said 2 years ago that Dead Island 2 would be nominated for an award at the Game Awards. No one would have believed you.
Whose nephew works on Dead Island 2?
I would have said, did they introduce a biggest disappointment caatgory? But...
Yeah. So the fact is there, honestly, I love it. It's not going to win anything. I would probably say really a big part of me wants to say Hi-Fi Rush. But I think it's definitely FromSoft's going to take this one with Armored Core 6.
Okay. What about you, Jordan?
I actually am going Hi-Fi. I haven't beat it yet, but it's just so it's just awesome. It's just dripping with style. It's so much fun.
I will say I won't be upset if Hi-Fi Rush wins it and I don't get the point here because I do. It's a special game. I feel like Armored Core 6 probably ends up getting it, but maybe not. Maybe not.
I mean, you're probably right, and I can't wait to eventually dive into it. But it's 2023. I had to make some choices.
Oh, for sure.
With all these releases coming out, I was like, some of these have to wait till next year.
100%.
That's
next up on the list, Best Audio Design. We got Alan Wake 2, Dead Space, Hi-Fi Rush, Spider-Man 2, and Resident Evil 4. I feel like this Best Audio, in a way, feels to me like best horror game. Like, because usually it's I feel like horror games is where audio design really thrives and really has a chance to show what can make that game genre special.
Sure.
Which is why I feel like there's a really good chance that Alan Wake 2 takes this one, but I could also see it going to either Dead Space or Resident Evil 4. But where's your head at, Cayman?
I'm going solid Hi-Fi Rush on this one.
Okay.
Yeah. I think Hi-Fi Rush has such a unique there's something unique about the audio, the fact it's built in. That's why I think like it's such a toss up for me between the best action game between the two, between Armored Core 6 and Hi-Fi Rush, because of the way the audio is implemented. I don't see how this doesn't win.
Sure. It's similar to what I said last round. Like I wouldn't be upset if Hi-Fi Rush won this because
100%.
The amount of effort and design that went into making everything in that game on the beat is really cool. Jordan, what about you? Where's your head at?
Oh yeah, Hi-Fi Rush for sure.
Hell yeah,
for sure.
For sure.
Next up,
a bear suit.
Next up, best fighting game. We got God of Rock, Mortal Kombat 1, Nickelodeon All-Stars Brawl 2, Pocket Bravery, and Street Fighter 6. I feel like this is between Mortal Kombat and Street Fighter 6, even though All-Stars Brawl had amazing reviews. It just came out, so I just don't know that it's going to have the numbers.
2 days ago, like the day before the nominees were announced.
Yeah, I just don't think it's going to have the numbers. But Jordan, where's your head at for best fighting game?
I didn't actually vote for one because I haven't played any of these, but if I'm just going based on what I would have gravitated toward if I were to buy one and play one, Street Fighter 6. I just think the visual style looked really cool. All the gameplay I saw looked really cool. But I could see an argument for Mortal Kombat 1 as well.
Yeah.
Especially with how they reworked all the lore and then brought in all these Omni-Man and all the other people that are coming in. So
Cayman, how about you?
I'm going Street Fighter 6.
Okay.
I think Street Fighter 6 is I don't know. Street Fighter tends to always do really well. I don't think Mortal Kombat landed hot, but I think that there's been a lot of backlash coming off the heels of that lately. That I think just because of that, there's going to be a slight dip, and I think that's where Street Fighter 6 fills the gap.
Okay. Yeah, I won't be surprised if I'm wrong on this one and it ends up going to Street Fighter 6. Because I was hearing people say it should have been nominated for Game of the Year. I'm like, I didn't play it, so I can't speak to it. But
I heard that too.
If you think that it's supposed to be nominated for Game of the Year, maybe it is going to win Best Fighting Game. Next up, Best Family Game. We got Disney Illusion Island, Party Animals, Pikmin 4, Sonic Superstars, and what I assume is going to win, Super Mario Brothers Wonder. I feel like this one, if it doesn't win whatever the category was earlier, it's like this one's absolutely locked and loaded. Super Mario Brothers.
It's got to be. It's got to be.
After that, a category I probably should have cut, but I didn't. Best Sim/Strategy. We got Advanced Wars 1 and 2, Reboot Camp, Cities Skylines 2, Company of Heroes 3, Fire Emblem Engage, and Pikmin 4. And I say maybe we should have cut it because we just don't play a lot of these types of games here. My guess is Pikmin 4, but I haven't touched any of these all year.
Fire Emblem Engage.
Fire Emblem Engage for you, Jordan. Did you play it?
I did. Yeah, that was one of the first games I played this year, actually.
Nice.
Great time. I didn't jive with a lot of the character designs necessarily. They no disrespect if this is your style. Just the whole like the VTuber type of thing is just not like my style.
Sure.
That's what I think that. No joke. I think that the person they brought in for the character designs is a designer for VTube like characters and stuff. That's like where they came to prominence. But the actual like moment to moment strategy /sim like combat and stuff is probably the best the series has seen like in the past 30 years. So
cool.
3 houses, better game overall. But as far as the combat and stuff for this one, it takes the cake. So that's where my vote's gonna go.
Nice. Okay. Cayman, how about you?
I'm gonna throw a curveball here. I'm going with City Skylines 2. Look,
okay.
I don't know.
People like it. I mean, people are liking it. That's from what I hear.
Cities and Sky. I mean, it's Cities and Skylines, baby. I don't. That sounds like the name of a pop punk song from 2008.
I'm all about it. Also, I have not noticed. I just now noticed Basic Fun in the chat over on YouTube. I didn't have the YouTube chat pulled up. They've been chiming in. I guess they know you, Cognitive Clips, Jordan. So welcome, Basic Fun, to the chat. Thanks for being here.
Oh yeah, Basic Fun. Hey man, yeah, thanks for coming in.
Hell awesome. Yeah. Okay, next up on the list, we got Games for Impact, which is A Space for the Unbound, Chance of Sonar, Goodbye Volcano High, Chia, Terranil, and Vinba. I've only played 2 of these. I played Chia and Vinba, but I really I loved Vinba. I thought it was such a special little game, and I hope that Vinba gets the win here. Jordan, did you play any of these on this list?
I did not, but I did hear a lot of good things about Vinba. The friends of the show over at JK Games, I heard them talking about it, and it's really special. And the reviews looked really great. I meant to check out Chia because it was on the PlayStation Plus, like the mid and higher tiers. I think I even downloaded it at some point, but just didn't get around to it.
Yeah.
Can't imagine why. But yeah, I just didn't get around to it.
So are you throwing the vote behind Vinba as well then?
Yeah, we'll do Vinba.
Okay. How about you, Cayman?
Make it 3.
Cool. Yeah. I do want to quickly say, I understand why it wasn't, because it's such a huge game, and Games for Impact is usually like the smaller games. I really think Spider-Man 2 should have been nominated for Games for Impact. The amount of storylines they put in for deaf characters in that game specifically, I feel like they went out of their way to make Spider-Man 2 one of the most inclusive games I've ever come across. And I feel like it should have at least got the nomination, but I understand why it didn't. But I do at least want to say it's not something that we mentioned when we were talking about Spider-Man 2 earlier. There's a lot of really cool stuff like that in Spider-Man 2, if that interests you.
If I'm going on like just stories that impacted like just my personal life or whatever the most as I was playing, I would have wrote in Final Fantasy 16 for this one. But again, like it's not exactly a broader,
sure.
Like for what do they describe it as? And they're like for social,
like social awareness, that kind of thing. Like usually the game has some sort of a social message behind it.
Yeah. Famously lacked a lot of actual diversity.
That's true.
That's another conversation, but
that's true. Yeah. That's true. Next up, we got Best Art Direction. We got Alan Wake 2, Hi-Fi Rush, Lies of P, Super Mario Brothers Wonder, and The Legend of Zelda: Tears of the Kingdom. Cayman, where any thoughts on this category? Who you think might take the W here?
Yeah, I'm gonna go with Hi-Fi Rush on this one. I think Hi-Fi Rush specifically because the fact that all of the game works around rhythm, but the art also has like a life to it. So like everything around you is like pulsing with the beat. And I think the way that it's designed, like I think art direction is like a perfect category for it to win an award for someone thinking of like when you walk into areas and like the puzzles will be part of the beats and like everything it's all built together. It's all moving and there's all life to it. It's very colorful, vibrant. It's got a really cool art style. I think this is it.
What about you, Jordan?
Yeah, I could see it for Hi-Fi, Mario, or Zelda, honestly. But I put my vote down for Mario. Just I love how creative all of these like the Wonder Flower effects have been so far. Like I think I've still got maybe I think there's maybe 6 worlds, and I'm down to like the last 2, I think. So I'm still not done with it yet. But just like what I've seen so far is just like constantly like, oh my gosh, like the things that they've been doing with the effects and changing your character, changing the backgrounds, changing the flow of the environment. It's all been really, really cool. So I'm gonna go with that.
Yeah, when I first drew this up in the doc, I'd put Super Mario Brothers Wonder, but I'm kind of feeling a draw to Alan Wake 2 here. But I that might be a little bit of my own bias because I'm currently playing Alan Wake 2, which I didn't talk about.
What
earlier.
I've seen, I
save
can
that
see
for
it.
next week. But that game, like, I'm gonna probably give a full review next week because I think I'm gonna have it finished by then. It is a special game, and I hope that it gets some sort of an accolade here to when that award show happens. But I do think that this might end up going to Wonder, but I'm going to throw my vote behind Alan Wake 2 in the hopes that it can get at least a little bit of a win, a little bit of a treasure that night.
If it has even half of the art direction and like just the trippy, all that Control had, then I mean, I could see it. You know what I mean? Like,
for sure.
I've seen like a couple people on Twitch playing through it, and it looks awesome. It really does. So
I cannot wait to talk about this game next week for sure.
and
Next up, we got
you talk about it.
Hey, there you go. Thanks, buddy. Next up, we got best score / music. We got Alan Wake 2 again, Baldur's Gate 3, Final Fantasy 16, Hi-Fi Rush, and The Legend of Zelda: Tears of the Kingdom. I kind of feel like this could be the one Final Fantasy 16 win for the night. Cayman, what do you think?
Yes.
Yeah.
This is the one down. I want this on vinyl. That's how great this score is. Like, I want to just put it on when I'm just sitting around in my living room. I just want to listen to that music, the orchestra. It is the music in this game is fucking incredible.
It is very good.
And
Jordan,
this one was really close. Oh, sorry, Cayman, go ahead.
No, please.
It was really close for me. Tears of the Kingdom edged it out just a little bit. I agree with everything you're saying. Like, if I could, yeah.
You know, I love that we say that, but we're like, no one's choosing Hi-Fi Rush, even though we're like just talking about how great everything rhythm-wise is. Like, right. I'm going to put. That's how great Final Fantasy's fucking soundtrack is.
Sure, yeah.
But also, this is for the actual score and the music itself, not necessarily that it all fits on a beat. You know what I'm saying?
That's true.
Fair enough.
With Tears, not to spoil anything for anyone who hasn't made it around to it yet, but the that final thing. Chills just thinking about it. I mean, that score is just.
If I were voting, I want to be clear because our audience really cares. If I were voting, I would vote for The Legend of Zelda: Tears of the Kingdom. I just think Final Fantasy 16 is going to win.
Well, I
won't be mad at all.
If I was doing the votes, I would just be right now. If it wasn't copywritten, probably just be playing the Titan theme song and the Titan boss fight on Final Fantasy 16 just on loop. I don't know what the hell they were smoking when they made that. For like, this is what we're gonna put here. Amazing choice, though.
That was like a completely different genre from the rest of the soundtrack.
It really was.
And it was really good, though. It was so good.
Perfect. That's why it has to win this award.
Also, we got Kayla in the chat. What is up? What a collab. Joining late, unfortunately working. Thanks for joining, Kayla from over the JK Games. We will be doing another collab soon as well, Kayla. I hope. But thanks for being here. Just leave work. They won't know. They'll have no idea. Next up, we're down to the last few. We got most anticipated, which is always such a funny award for me. But it's essentially like what game is coming out next year that we're most excited about. We got Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, Hades 2, Like a Dragon, Infinite Wealth, Star Wars Outlaws, and Tekken 8. Because the last several years, Tears of the Kingdom won this award every single time. But it's out, so it can't win. But I feel like it's most likely going to be Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. Although from this list, my choice would be Hades 2. That's what I'm most anticipating on this list. But yeah, Jordan, where's your head at for this one?
Hades 2. I mean, so a good buddy of mine, we have like a tradition of sorts that we both, despite being in our 30s and full-time employees, like we stay up and watch the Game Awards and just like live react to each other. The way that we both popped off when Hades 2 was announced last year, oh my goodness. Yeah, so that's my vote.
Hell yeah. What about you, Cayman?
So, as I think both of you know, I am the only person apparently who likes Like a Dragon.
The only person.
Not Nick. Nick loves Like a Dragon. I know he's gonna message you and be like, "You son of a bitch! Don't you dare say that."
I've heard of at least 5 other people that like it. So
I'm shocked. It's
there are dozens of us.
I'm shocked. Infinite Wealth is actually on here for most anticipated game of next year. It's either that or there's no games coming out next year that anyone's actually excited about. With that being said, as much as like I think all of you feel the same way, where it's like, yes, we want these particular games because that's what we want. I'm gonna go with Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. I think that's a very solid pick for this. I think most voters probably would lean there. Hades
Okay.
too, great pick, but
safe bet. Safe bet.
yeah, I think that's the safe bet
Boring.
here. Even though I swear to God, if Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth wins, I'm gonna throw myself in a fire.
Hey,
if I could write in Metro Prime 4, I'm still waiting.
Yeah, good luck with that. Good luck with that coming out next year. Kayla in the chat, most excited for Star Wars Outlaws. Also high on my list.
That looks good.
For sure.
That does
it looks really
fun.
good. Next up, we got Best Performance. We have Ben Starr from Final Fantasy 16 as Clive Rosfield. We have Cameron Monaghan from Star Wars Jedi Survivor as Cal Kestis. We have Idris Elba in Cyberpunk 2077 Phantom Liberty. I don't know his character's name. Melanie LeBird from Alan Wake 2 as Saga Anderson. Neil Newbon from Baldur's Gate 3 as Asterion. And then Yuri Lowenthal from Spider-Man 2 as Spider-Man. So there was an award show last week that Neil Newbon won. So I kind of feel like he probably does end up winning. But
golden joysticks.
Yeah, golden. That's right. I love me some Ben Starr. If you don't follow him on Twitter, you should. But I'm gonna throw my hat behind Neil Newbon. Cayman. I feel like you're gonna agree with me.
Yeah, him as Asterion is one of the greatest performances outside of the performance that what's his face did at the Game Awards last year with his 23-minute long speech.
It was so long.
So long. It was so awkward. Oh my God. No, yeah. Neil,
people are still throwing one of the bus about that too. They made a joke about it at the Golden Joysticks.
No, that's funny. That's funny.
Joel Miller
Jordan, what about you?
Was roasting him. My vote's boy. Ben Starr. Gotta get Ben Starr.
I mean, what a nice young man. Also, Kayla in chat, does Hades 2 have a date? It does not. It has a window. No. Q2 of next year is when it's supposed to enter early access, which is how the original Hades was released, where it just came out on PC for the first few months and then eventually came to Switch as well in full release. So I assume it's probably going to have a similar release this time. Next up, only a few more left. We got Best Narrative. We have Alan Wake 2, Baldur's Gate 3, Cyberpunk 2077, Final Fantasy 16, and Spider-Man 2. I am so torn on this one between Alan Wake 2 and Baldur's Gate 3, but Cayman, I'm interested to hear what you think on this one.
See, I'm torn, maybe because I haven't played Alan Wake 2 yet, but I'm more torn between Baldur's Gate 3 and Final Fantasy 16. So I think Final Fantasy 16 has an amazing story as well, and I think a lot of people who didn't jive as much with the gameplay jived with the narrative. However, with that being said, I honestly think it's going to go to Baldur's Gate 3.
Oops, I was muted. I wouldn't be surprised, just like from a tech standpoint, how they make just the game work from a narrative standpoint. Like I won't be surprised if it gets it. For sure. I think it's like I said, I think it's between Alan Wake 2 and Baldur's Gate. But Jordan, what about you? Where's your head at?
I'm going Final Fantasy 16 again.
Hell yeah.
But, I love that narrative. And I guess, if this wasn't clear from earlier, I haven't actually played Baldur's Gate 3, so that's probably why it's not getting any of my votes.
That's fair.
That's fair. Nothing but amazing things about it, but I just haven't gotten around to it.
The thing about Alan Wake 2, and the reason why I'm going to say Alan Wake 2 for this category, because I'm afraid it's not going to win much else. And if it does anything fucking well, it is the narrative. Like that. It is one of the most captivating video games I've ever played. And I can't wait for you, especially to play it, Cayman. But it does things that I've never seen done in a video game before from a narrative standpoint, from a systematic narrative standpoint, that I think is so fascinating and so effing cool that I really hope that it ends up winning this one. But won't be surprised if it's Baldur's Gate, but I am going to say Alan Wake 2.
Interesting.
Next up, best direction. We got Alan Wake 2, Baldur's Gate 3, Spider-Man 2, Super Mario Brothers Wonder, and The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. Cayman.
I'm gonna shake things up here.
Okay.
Just from what I've seen, I'm gonna go Alan Wake 2.
In the doc, I have Baldur's Gate 3 written down, but I'm really considering moving to Alan Wake 2.
Yeah, I'm like at my phone right in front
of
of me. So if you see me keep looking down, it's because I'm like reading over all the options here.
Yeah.
And I saw your P and I was like, I'm shocked. I saw your P and I was shocked.
I'll see myself out.
I've seen it enough to not be shocked anymore. No, I saw your initial down next to Baldur's Gate 3 and I was like, wow, I'm actually kind of blown away by that because from what I've watched of Alan Wake 3 or Alan Wake 2, I'm like, I don't know how this doesn't win best direction because of all like the wild there's like a whole fucking like musical number in the middle of the game.
Yeah,
amazing.
I am officially moving to Alan Wake 2. Because I narrative direction and game of the year, I've flip-flopped so many times in the doc for myself. But man, that like a big part in addition to the narrative, like the fact that Alan Wake 2 works. Granted, I haven't finished it, so maybe it all falls apart. But the direction of this game is astonishing. Like I cannot believe they are pulling it off still so far. And it kind of goes back to that narrative piece I was saying where like it's doing things that I've never seen done before, which like you can say for Baldur's Gate 3 as well. But the reason I think originally that I was thinking Baldur's Gate 3 is because I kind of assume it's going to win Game of the Year. So I feel like usually these two awards kind of go hand in hand, even though I don't necessarily
think last year Ragnarok won Best Direction and Elden Ring won Game of the Year.
I think you're right. Jordan, though, where's your head at for this one?
My head and my heart are still with Tears of the Kingdom. It was that game, dude. Something special.
I don't disagree.
But again, and then, from what I've seen and heard about Alan Wake 2, it probably would more than earn this award as well. So I mean,
yeah,
I won't be mad.
Well, I hope you're not mad when it wins. Next up, Game of the Year, the final award of the night. Game of the Year. A very similar set of games, but there is one here that is not that hasn't been around very much around all the different nominees that we've done. We got Alan Wake 2, Baldur's Gate 3, Spider-Man 2, Resident Evil 4, Super Mario Brothers Wonder, and The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. I got some thoughts about this.
Me too.
I loved Resident Evil 4. I adored Resident Evil 4. But I feel like it is a bit disappointing to put a game that, granted, I don't want to like tear down what it achieved by remaking what is universally agreed upon as one of the best video games of all time. And it did it in such a successful way and brought in new enough elements to make it feel like a new game. But it's still Resident Evil 4. Like it's so much in its DNA is still Resident Evil 4. It's just a better looking, better feeling, better paced Resident Evil 4. A game that won so many Game of the Year awards back when it first came out. It just feels like a bit of a wasted slot to me. Do either of you agree with this?
100% agree. I feel... I went back and looked. That's when I was all confused and jumbled earlier. I was looking up to see if Resident Evil 2 was nominated for Game of the Year, and it was, which I think makes way more sense because that game is literally like completely new, like
different concept in a way of like it going from an isometric like over the top, to over the shoulder like action horror game. Totally different game.
That works for Game of the Year for me. Resident Evil 4, and I fucking love this game, doesn't work for me when I could say you could easily interchange that and throw in Sea of Stars. That's what I would do, and that's why I'm frustrated because I'm like, that's a game that actually needs to be here on this stage, not a game that's already been on this stage.
Sure.
Right? The other ones would be like Final Fantasy 16. Totally feel like could be there. Starfield, I don't think is Game of the Year worthy, but like even that, I think should have better odds than Resident Evil 4. So yeah, I'm not in love with this pick as much as I love that game. I don't know. I feel weird about it. I don't feel right. Something doesn't feel right.
I agree. What about you, Jordan?
Here is where, yeah, my curtains are drawn, so I'm safe. I don't think Spider-Man 2 should be on there, man.
Okay.
I liked it a lot. It did a lot of really cool things.
Sure.
It also not crashed, but I had bugs that required like restarts of checkpoints and or the game itself, like every hour and a half.
Really?
Pacing was, yes.
Whoa.
No joke. Like I would like one of the earlier missions. So this is not a spoiler. One of the earlier missions where Miles, like when he first kind of like is talking to Uncle Aaron again, and he sends you to like the first little like, you know, prowler side mission, whatever. Like I get to the building and nothing happens. Like what's supposed to happen is the script continues and Uncle Aaron like walks you through like, yo, you need to find like where the stash is, use your whatever upgrade it just gave your suit, whatever it was. It just like the script didn't load. So that was the first bug. And that's like what, 35, 40 minutes into the game.
Sure.
Had to restart checkpoint. And like I hit random things like that like almost every hour and a half. And I have my PS5 is digital only. So I had, you know, the day 0, day 1 patch automatically.
Yeah.
But it just, yeah. I think the pacing was kind of weird, especially like just the way that I was playing it for, you know, just life reasons. I was trying to mostly mainline the story with just a little, you know, dash of side content here and there. And like, I feel like the story is paced such that it's expecting you to do a lot of side content in between.
Interesting.
So there was, again, I won't spoil anything, but there's one mission where, you know, when Peter's still got the black suit, so he's being kind of a douche, and he gets a phone call from somebody, or maybe he calls the person, but they're like, oh, so you're alive. You're finally talking to me. And I was like, we just talked like 15 minutes ago. What are you doing? Like, so I think that if you're not playing the game,
how interesting.
You to,
yeah.
But again, like as we were saying earlier, if this was a different year, I could totally see it as like a contender. But when we're up against things like, you know, Final Fantasy 16, Sea of Stars, I think one of those two should have been in that spot where Spider-Man is. And like, I haven't finished Resident Evil 4 yet. I'm loving it so far. I think I'm a little bit easier on it than you guys, just because like I loved it back in the day, like GameCube, and I haven't actually played through it since. And because of that, it's almost like a completely new game to me because of the way that they've reorganized some of the story elements and like the added scenes or characters and the controls and stuff. Like I literally still don't know what's going to happen for the most part because it's been so long and they've changed enough of it to where I don't really know what to expect yet. So like from my personal experience with the original game compared to this one, I can still see it. Like there's definitely an argument to be made that like remasters should have their own category because Metro Prime Remastered, oh my God, like you can't, if you had told me that was a remake, I'd believe you. Like it's so perfectly done, but there's no category for it this year because like where are you going to put it? Because technically they just made it prettier and, you know, a bit of controls, but yeah, so that's
it kind of feels like this year, like if I kind of feel like if you're going to include Resident Evil 4, it needs to be an expanded list. There needs to be more than just 6 games nominated. Because that's the thing. Like if you go back to one of the first episodes of the year when this game came out, it was my game of the year for a while because it's that good. Until I played Zelda, it was my game of the year. But it just feels weird. Because like Cayman, you kind of said something that I think really I agree with a lot. That's like the Game of the Year award puts a game on a pedestal because this is going to be viewed by nearly 100 million people. And it's like I would be willing to bet more than half of those 100 million people know about Resident Evil 4. And again, like that's not necessarily like you shouldn't just nominate a game so that more people get to play it or learn about it. But like, you know, we had said Sea of Stars, Hi-Fi Rush as an example, like these games that did something special, Dave the Diver, even like these games that kind of came out of nowhere, really surprised us and are really great. I'm a little shocked that those weren't included. But
yeah, I mean,
you go ahead.
there's snubs here. There's a lot of snubs here. I mean, this year was jam-packed fucking full. I mean, we can remember at the first of the year, we also had Hogwarts Legacy, which did
Yeah, not
really
a
well.
single nomination.
Street Fighter 6 as in the 90s on Metacritic. Cocoon's another one. I mean, there's a lot of really, really good games this year. And this is, I think, just like the toughest one, man. It's just like this feeling of like, shit, like I wish this game wasn't there.
Yeah.
That's all I can feel like is like, I just wish we could have elevated something that was different, you know? And I think that's the other thing we always talk about with when I think about game of the year. I think about what's a game that does something like these games are memorable for a reason because they do something different. Even like Elden Ring did something, they turned the Dark Souls into an open world. That's different. It
made me play a Dark Soul. It made me like it. Like I hadn't played through any of the other, the FromSoft games before Elden Ring, so
It Takes
that
Two
was special for sure.
Was like drastically different than any game that had kind of come out before. Baldur's Gate 3 most likely is going to win. That's kind of how it is. And I'm looking at all these games. And I'm like, yes, there's games like look at I think Sea Stars is a perfect example of this, of like a Western JRPG.
Yeah.
And the mechanics in it are so fucking cool that like to me, and then I look at Resident Evil 4 and I'm like, I love this game. This game won game of the year already.
And I'm polished on a different level. Like really a 10 in like every category. So like if you're looking at it objectively from like, we talked a lot about science the last 5 weeks. Like if you're looking at it from a science perspective, I get why Resident Evil 4 is here. I just feel like there is an opportunity here with the Game Awards to celebrate new games. Yes. And this isn't a new game. It is, but it's not. Like it's this weird in between. And there's been debates online of like, should there be like a remake category? Because we get so many of them this year that, I mean, this year alone, Dead Space, Resident Evil 4, we're about to get Super Mario Brothers RPG, Metroid Prime remaster,
Destroy All Humans 2.
Like there's at least 5 of them in a year that you could pad out and it be like a good stable of 5 games.
Let me tell you, I love this game enough to where I've looked at this stat multiple times, so I can say it with confidence. The 3rd highest rated game of 2023, Metroid Prime Remastered.
Oh yeah,
go to OpenCritic right now. It's the top 2, of course, Baldur's Gate 3 and Tears of the Kingdom. They have 96, and then Metroid Prime Remastered has a 94. It's like a 21-year-old game, actually, 21-year-old game.
Yeah,
no, that's not right. 12. I don't know. Numbers are hard.
Numbers are hard.
Science is hard.
It's interesting though. Like if that game had introduced a little more original spice to it, would it have been on this list? Maybe. But
But again, they also were perfectly transparent that they didn't build it from the ground up, so it was never going to be considered a full remake and all that stuff. But
it's a really interesting topic because like also something that I don't necessarily want to do is like disparage all the hard work that the Resident Evil 4 team did. Like they built a new game, like they built this from the ground up. Like so I'm glad in that stance that they're getting recognized. I just feel like there's a missed opportunity here for something a little smaller to have a spotlight. But so all that to say, what do we think is going to win? I feel like Cayman, you've been pretty clear throughout. Baldur's Gate 3 probably going to win it. Are you locking in Baldur's Gate 3 here?
Yeah, 100%. Like I said before, like this game has done something that I don't think we've ever seen in a video game before, and it's done it on a level that I don't think we've ever seen before either. And I think when it comes down to it, the 2 games that are going to duke it out for Game of the Year, I think this just has the edge because it's just enough different and like just a little bit more groundbreaking. And I think because of that, that's just going to push it over the line.
Okay. Jordan, how about you? What are you throwing your vote behind?
My hat that's not on. I'm going Tears of the Kingdom again. Again, totally see all the argument for Baldur's Gate 3, and for me, it's not only because I've actually played it and enjoyed it, but they had like 30 years worth of 35 years, however long, of this series to like build on, and somehow like pay homage to it while also adding new things to be excited about. And like, so I think that it wins just as far as like in the context of like the history of video games as a whole, the series as a whole, and the new things that it brings to the table that we hadn't really seen before in a whole lot of games. But again, from what I understand, Baldur's Gate 3 is doing a lot of that kind of thing just within its own, like not necessarily in the context of, the previous two games, but just in general of like bringing in a whole bunch of new mechanics and exciting stuff. So
makes sense. I'm gonna also say Baldur's Gate 3. I have to, I think of it from a like what is the most likely to happen, especially because I've done a lot of zigging or zagging throughout this list. So I'm gonna try to get a point back here by going Baldur's Gate. But I do think while Baldur's Gate 3 is gonna win this Game of the Year award, I think that Zelda has a good chance of winning. Is it the DICE awards that are like only developers that vote for? Whichever one that is, I feel like Tears of the Kingdom has a good shot of winning that one. But I mean, maybe it's still Baldur's Gate. But
I think the thing is, there was a comment that the dev that it came out about from a developer who was mad about Baldur's Gate 3, and they were pissed because they were like, people will now expect RPGs to have this level of freedom, and like this is unheard of. And like that line alone makes me think like maybe Baldur's Gate runs house. Here's the thing though. We thought the fucking, what was it? The first year we were doing Spotlight during the Game Awards was what, Deathloop? We were like, Deathloop was just going to clean house, and it cleaned house and then lost Game of the Year to It Takes Two. So we could all be sitting here, and then the night of they'd be like, and the winner goes to Resident Evil 4. And we're all like, you gotta be fucking kidding me. And it very well could.
Okay, it better not. And also, speaking to like the other award shows, we brought up the Golden Joysticks a minute ago. I forget how all of their voting works, but I know that there was like, I think maybe 2 specific awards for like Critics' Choice. So like only the critics in the industry voted. Alan Wake 2 won for that one.
God, I would be so happy if Alan Wake 2 wins Game of the Year. Yeah. But so those are our what do you call them, predictions. Let us know what yours are. I didn't do housekeeping at the top of the show, so I'll say now, if you head over to YouTube at Spotlight Games Pod, let us know in the comment below if you're listening on your podcast service what you think is going to win some of these awards. What do you think is going to win Game of the Year? What's your Game of the Year? Let us know. Or you can always email us, mail@spotlightgames.net. It's going to be fun. It's in less than a month. It's only 3 weeks away now. So I'm excited to see where all of this lands, because I think we have a very interesting night ahead of us. Even if Baldur's Gate sweeps, I think it's going to be a very interesting night of the Game Awards. Jordan, what a lovely time. Thanks for coming by the show.
Thanks for having me, guys. This is a lot of fun. So thank you so much.
Of course. Where can the folks find you at home if they want to follow your things that you do on the internet?
Yeah, so the easiest thing is to go to Instagram and/or Threads. I'm probably most active on there at Cognitive Clips, and then there's a link tree there where you can find my YouTube, Twitch, all that kind of stuff. So,
hell yeah!
But I'm pretty active on the threadings.
Nice
throughout the day.
You're a threader.
I am a threader.
Hell yeah!
Triple thread.
Again, that's very good. Again, thank you for joining. Cayman, where can the folks at home find you on the internet?
Yeah, you can find me on Twitter at the Dumpster Boy. And you can find our other podcasts that probably have new episodes coming out for soon.
At some point.
Soon again. Sorry about that. You can find that at Safe Trash Cinema at literally all socials. Also, Patrick, can I give him a spoiler for next week's episode?
Of Spotlight Games.
Ooh. Yeah.
Yeah, tell him. This is spoiler for me too. I think
we're gonna have a sponsored. a sponsored review. Sponsored by the audience, because you guys helped pay for it, of the fucking Portal. We did it, boys. We did. Patrick doesn't seem nearly as excited about this as me.
I'm excited. I just had no idea this was happening, so I didn't know if you were about to spoil that you were quitting the show next week.
Do you really think I would do that to you? Like put you on a spot like that? I mean, I would.
Spotlight games, dog. That's like the whole thing we
It's
do
in the
here.
name.
That's
It's in
fair.
the
I
name.
wouldn't do that, dude. Patrick's just terrified that I'm gonna say something offensive. Patrick, it's
I
all
mean,
right, man. I mean, it's fair.
It wouldn't be the fourth time.
Yeah.
You can follow me at Patrick Schwag. You can follow the pod at Spot Games Pod or on Twitter, and then everywhere else, including Instagram, Twitch, YouTube, Threads. Even though I'm not very active on Threads, but the pod at Spotlight Games Pod. We're on live. We're on Twitch live every Tuesday, 8 p.m. Eastern time. If you're listening in a different country, 8 p.m. Eastern time might mean something different to you now because of daylight savings time. So just Google it. But thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. We'll be back next week where Cayman is going to quit the show apparently because he fucking hates being here. I thank you very much. We love you. Thank you for being here. Bye-bye.